Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and it has been 2 weeks since the previous Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, so that means now is the time for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, with me, Herbert Erpaderp. As background, I've got a little bit of video from this year's Supernova in Brisbane. Not a whole lot of video though. Most of it turned out blurry or shaky because my hands were fairly shaky that day, and to be honest, I just didn't feel like videoing that much, because I wanted to spend time with my awesome friends enjoying the stuff. We did spend a significant amount of the time we were there in Q&A sessions, which don't allow you to take video anyway. Those Q&A sessions being with the ever-wonderful Nathan Fillion, which was excellent, and John DiMaggio and Billy West from Futurama. That was an amazing thing to see. Very funny and talented guys. Go and see them if you get the chance. Anyway, on to questions and comments. On last week's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, Aries5342 says, I thought this video was gonna be about an E100 or something. I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you suggesting the questions would be answered by an E100? E100s are huge. Are you calling me fat? Toa Duncan I do enjoy names I have a hard time saying. Keeps things interesting. Anyway, Toa says, Hi Herbert from across the ditch. If you are interested in model ships, I would suggest Academy models. They are cheap, under $20 here, of a decent size, and can be motorized. I think I have seen Academy models on the shelves. I was actually considering picking up a cheap ship the other day. I've forgotten exactly what it was. A German ship, probably the Bismarck. I was there for model railway stuff though, and couldn't really justify buying anything else, so I didn't really look too closely at the models to try and avoid temptation. I would actually be kind of interested in a motorized ship. I would really love to have a huge RC model ship, but a smaller one would be cool too. But I don't know where I would sail it other than the bathtub. I guess if I had a ship, I would find somewhere to sail it. A long while ago, I was pretty interested in the RC ships you can buy and fight against each other. They use air-powered BB guns if I recall. It looked like it would be a lot of fun, and there were clubs for it somewhat nearby. But I decided it was a bit too expensive a hobby to start. Obviously a bit different to a cheap motorizable model kit, but both are cool ideas. Boer Harms says, I am currently working on a modelling project. I want to build every single Tiger 1 that's still in existence. All 7. Have you got any tips on recreating exact camo schemes? The one in Saumur? I don't know exactly how that should be said. It looks especially difficult. I know you usually just go with the flow when it comes to camo, but maybe you could give some advice. I'm afraid not. That's probably not surprising. Lennart Hoek's reply is just about what I would suggest. I've never really felt a need to try and get exact camo schemes. I guess my modelling is more representative than exact and accurate. I suppose if I were to try and replicate something exactly, I would try to find as many images of that particular tank as I could, and you should definitely check out forums like Lennart suggests. I think the best advice for it is just take your time with it. Go carefully and slowly, and don't be afraid to strip the paint off and start again if you're not really happy with what you've done. I would of course be interested in seeing pictures or videos of the progress of your Tiger project too. Good luck with it. Michael Hess says, I am very interested in any model railroading videos you plan to make, and I think it's awesome you are making one for family. I am currently working on a historical display layout depicting the Deutsche Reichsbahn on the Eastern Front in HO, allowing me to use my Flames of War vehicles as train loads. What kind of layout are you building? That sounds like an interesting layout. I know the scale wouldn't be quite right, but it would be close enough, and it's a great way to get extra use out of your Flames of War army. If you have any pictures or videos, please share. If not while in progress, I would definitely like to see it when it's done. Since what I'm building is intended for a very young kid, it's not really going to be themed on anything in particular. I'm going to try and make things look good and be durable and fun to play with. So it's never going to be a super detailed display layout or anything of that nature. It is a chance for me to make something I would have totally loved as a kid. Even though I did love the model railways I had growing up, they weren't made by people into trains and they were pretty simple. I think I can make something that both looks good and is fun to play with. That said, the trains, at least to start with, will be British prototype though, not strictly, because my sister or mother or anyone else might buy trains from all over the world, and that's cool. As far as I know, kids don't really care about historical accuracy or anything like that. The structures and scenery, I guess, will probably be somewhat British, suitable for the era when steam and diesel were both used. Again, not strictly though. The plan at the moment is a kind of L-shaped loopy ovally track with a short branch line that will go up a hill to a coal mine so that we can have some bridges and stuff. I have also been considering building myself a very small layout in N-scale. It may end up just being a very small, simple loop, but I am so very tempted every time I go to the hobby shop. I will have to find some space, but I think I can. Top Bunk Productions says, how much derp could a Herpaderp herp if a Herpaderp could herp derps? Is that metric or imperial derps? This is important. After you've answered that, I challenge you to say the above fast 2 or 3 times. How much derp could a Herpaderp herp if a Herpaderp could herp derps? How much derp could a Herpaderp herp if a Herpaderp could derp derps? How much derp could a Herpaderp herp if a Herpaderp could herp derps? How much derp could a Herpaderp herp if a Herpaderp could herp derps? How much derp could a Herpaderp herp if a Herpaderp could herp derps? I think I got that right. Jacob says, I bet $1 that this video that this exact comment is in will be more than 10 minutes long. We'll see. It probably will be, though at this stage as I'm recording the voice part it looks like it's going to be significantly shorter than the previous 2 Ask a Herbert Erpaderps. I'm not giving you $1 though. On my Remembrance Day video, Top Bunk Productions says, my bloody dad decided it was a good idea to try and call me at the Remembrance silence. I didn't answer until the service was over. By the way, isn't it 2 minutes? Or is it different in Australia? That's some pretty bad timing. I would have muted my phone. I've not heard of it being 2 minutes, at least not here in Australia. Maybe that's the case elsewhere in the world, or perhaps you are getting it confused with 2 minutes hate. On my Band of Brothers Pack 36 half-track video, Lennart Hoek says, nicely done. Are you, by the way, thinking about making more Plastic Soldier Company 1/72nd scale models? Corwin and Boar Harms agree, and they go on to discuss said topic in a language I don't understand. I always feel a little bit dumb only knowing one language, and a little bit jealous of the Europeans who are so good at using English in addition to their own languages. Anyway, I might just be having a moment of brain fog, but I don't think I've ever built anything in 1/72nd scale by the Plastic Soldier Company. I would definitely be interested in building some of their offerings in that scale, but I've not built one. Not yet anyway. Though I do have some of their half-tracks. Actually, probably the same model that Top Bunk Productions mentions as being the same or at least a very similar sprue to the Warlord model in this comment here. They do look very similar. These models are obviously different scales, but I would imagine Plastic Soldier Company's 28mm scale version is the same, just upscaled a little bit. A lot of the parts look very similar. The differences are that the lower hull is a single piece with a floor insert, where the Warlord kit has a lower hull part onto which the wheels and tracks attach, and then the angled crew compartment sits on top of that. In the Plastic Soldier Company kit, this is all one part. Also, the spare tyre and rope and tool stowage for the front look a bit different. There are also a few backpacks with helmets as stowage here, in addition to the roll and jerry cans. There's also a piece of spare track link. And the driving crew figures come already attached to chairs, where the Warlord kit only had chairs and no specific driving crew. The Plastic Soldier Company model has the headlamp moulded on, and there's probably a lot more that I'm not seeing. At any rate, the design of the parts do look incredibly similar, so there's probably some sharing of designs there or something. It was interesting to see and compare them at least. Cass Boab says, quick way to tell who made the kit from Warlord. Square sprues like this are in-house, possibly produced by Rendera, but designed by Warlord. Round sprues are Italeri, and round sprues with pegs that stack are from Wargames Factory. Very interesting, I will have to try and remember that. I had totally forgotten that Warlord took over Wargames Factory. Thanks for letting me know this. Scout Trooper Productions says, have you seen the new M18 Hellcat platoon in plastic? Erg, I want one. I have seen it and they do look really cool. I'm not sure I need 3 Hellcats, but I am actually kind of tempted to get the set with 2 Hellcats and the M8 or M20 Scout car. I really like Hellcats and that looks to be an excellent kit, and I will get one. Not right away, but probably pretty soon. And of course I will make a video about it. Hazed100 says, the difference in size isn't too bad, certainly not as bad as the difference between the Rubicon 251/D and Warlord's Resin 251/9 Sturmel, or however you say that. The Sturmel version is a lot thinner and narrow looking, and it was a bit annoying as I bought the Rubicon 251/D and fully expected them to match up in scales. It's certainly not a deal breaker. When playing you don't notice it if I'm honest, but I know some can be really strict on their scales. I still find 1/48th scale additions to the 1/56 scale setups make me uncomfortable. I haven't a clue why, but it just doesn't sit right. You are right, there are a lot of people that can be really strict and even obsessive with scales. I just can't do that, it would be exhausting to me. Sometimes it's just exhausting hearing scale-obsessed people complain. I totally get 1/48th scale and 1/56th scale models not looking right together. They're not really meant to. It's not a huge difference in scale, but it is enough of a difference that they'll more often than not look weird right next to each other. It can be a bit hit and miss how things are sized in the same scale between different manufacturers, and it is a bit annoying when things are way out of scale, but they're usually close enough, especially when they're actually on the gaming table. The measurements of all kinds of things could be interpreted differently during the design process, if they even have measurements to work from to begin with. I think a lot of problems with scale probably stem from inadequate information and guessing based on very old photos. I would imagine it's not especially easy to design a really accurate model kit, not only in the collecting of information like measurements, but also in actually designing the parts so they can be molded properly and cost effectively. In the end, these are wargaming models. I do say it all the time, but they are intended as gaming pieces. Reasonably accurately scaled and detailed gaming pieces for the most part, but they're not really fine scale display models, and they shouldn't be treated as such. This is why I think it's a little bit silly to get upset about that kind of model not being a perfect scale representation of a thing. Though if people have so few problems in their life that pieces of plastic being slightly incorrect sizes is a serious issue, then I guess I'm a little bit jealous of that. I feel like I'm starting to ramble. On last week's Herbert Erpaderp's Quick Tips video, in which I showed my spiral-bound bolt-action rulebook, be it Jeskate. I slaughter this name every time, don't I? They say my dad can do this for free at his work. Always used it for school assignments, but probably gonna use it for things like this now. It didn't occur to me to mention in the video that friends or family might have access to the equipment to do this, but it's certainly a good way to do it if you have that option. I do miss the free and easy access to things like laminators and guillotines that I had at my last job. There's a lot of things you can find in an office or just about any other workplace that you can appropriate for your own hobby needs. Jackie says, a lot of Flames of War players do that for their small rulebook because the binding on the book is notorious for falling apart. It's true, that's actually where I first heard the idea of spiral binding rulebooks. I have the big hardcover rulebook for Flames of War, so it was never really an issue there, but this bolt-action rulebook being so small and difficult to use reminded me that it was a thing that Flames of War players did. Joe's Model Kits says, spiral-bound books are more expensive to produce and more difficult to pack and transport, so most companies do not like to do it. They are of course a bunch of numpties, as a spiral-bound rulebook is so much better, and more practical than a normal bound book for playing wargames, etc. They should at least leave a bigger margin in the books so that if you do decide to spiral bind your rulebook, you won't lose any text or pictures. Perhaps you could send them a message from you and your loyal followers to do this. I'm not sure a message from me would really carry a lot of weight, even if I do mention all of you excellent people. It can't hurt to send a couple of polite messages though, assuming there's a place to send feedback and suggestions to begin with. I would suggest all of you that care about such things to do so. Even if they find it too expensive to spiral bind their rulebooks, they might be more receptive to the suggestion of having wider margins to allow for spiral binding by the customer. I think with the new version of Flames of War coming next year, now might be the right time to suggest this to Battlefront. Suggesting this to any company you like isn't the worst idea. It's the kind of thing that doesn't happen if nobody asks for it. Hazed100 says, I too love my books and I'm pretty anal about keeping the condition good. Collected comics as a kid and learned that habit. And judging by how bashed up and rough my old rulebook looks, that shouldn't be a consideration. As you say, it's supposed to be a working book thrown about to players, etc. So even with my protect books attitude, I see a lot of sense in your ring binding idea and I might copy you. Keep up the videos and say Herbert Erpaderp more, it's kinda funny. What's so funny about my perfectly sensible name, Herbert Erpaderp? I always feel bad about damaging books, but then trying to use it to play games in its original configuration is going to cause damage anyway when you have to fold it over so hard just to get it to stay open. And when you think of it that way, it becomes less of an issue to punch some holes in it so that it has better functionality. The lady at the shop where I got this done mentioned that she also felt pretty bad about chopping the spine off a book, but she did agree that spiral binding is more practical for things like rulebooks. On Monday's video about the 00 scale Dapol meat wagon, Boon Gaming YT says, make sure he doesn't bite it or something like that. Sound advice. I'm going to paint them brown, so I will also be sure to mention that they are neither chocolate nor meat, despite what the name might imply, and they must be kept out of the mouth. Boar Harms says, did not expect to see this from you since it doesn't have a gun on it. Anyway, it looks rather good considering the tooling is 50 years old. Really nice gift idea, I'm sure he'll love it. If you want some nice trains, maybe get a German armoured train or a Schwerer Gustav railway gun. I know there's one available in 1/72nd scale. It is a bit expensive though. If it makes you feel better, maybe we can pretend that there's a gun concealed inside each wagon. I'm sure I've built stuff with no guns before, you know, like terrain. Terrain doesn't have guns, does it? Not usually. I would really like a Schwerer Gustav. I'm not going to Google it though because I know it's going to be expensive, and I know I'm going to want it and try to convince myself that I need it. One day though. One day. Martin Strickfuss says, that'll do Herbert, that'll do. This was strangely compelling. Are you getting an 00 scale track for the next train video? I do plan to make a video about, hey, wait a minute, are you calling me a pig? I do plan to make a video about the track, which will be in 00 scale, or HO scale. The track is the same for both scales, while the models are in different scales, just to be confusing. It won't be the very next train video, but eventually there will be a video about track. It will probably be something along the lines of, Herbert tries to lay track and it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. Could be funny. Chaotic Neutral says, get a pile of dead body miniatures for the inside and throw some German writing on the side. Job done. That would be funny, in a not really funny kind of way. I'm not sure something that dark would make for a great gift for a little kid. He probably wouldn't understand, but I guess he's gotta learn about the Holocaust sometime, right? Top Bunk Productions says, Meat Wagon doesn't sound gruesome to me, it sounds delicious. I don't know. When I hear the words meat wagon, I think more along the lines of what Chaotic Neutral suggested, and not so much a wagon for carrying delicious, delicious meat. Obviously these wagons were for the tasty kind of meat, though I'm not sure how interested I would be in eating the meat that they carry. They're ventilated wagons, so all kinds of things could get in there. Doesn't sound especially hygienic. I guess it must have been good enough back in the olden days, but I do like not being made sick by the meat I eat. Well, that's about it for the questions and comments this fortnight. I obviously ran out of video from Supernova before I ran out of words, but hey, at least there was colours. As always, if you have a question you want me to answer on the next Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, or you have any other random comments, questions or suggestions, go ahead and put them in the comments section below. If you like the videos I make, be sure to subscribe to be notified of future uploads. If you really like the things I make, please consider helping to support the channel via Patreon. Doing so will allow you to see my videos early along with some patron-only bonus content. It will also help me buy more cool models to make videos about. You can give as little as $1 a month, but $1,000 would be much nicer. If Patreon isn't your thing, that's okay. I hope you enjoy my videos anyway. I shall return soon, so until then, happy modelling and thanks for watching. Farewell.